We're live on YouTube, everyone. So good afternoon, and we'll be starting in another 30 seconds. We also have our dearest principal with us. Ma'am, can you hear us? Are you there with us, Manveen, ma'am? You need to unmute yourself, I guess, so we'll be able to hear you.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me now?
You are perfectly audible, ma'am. Wonderful.
Right.
So lovely to see you.
May I know your good name, please?
Ma'am, my name is Atul Khosla, and I am with Vivek Atray right now.
Okay. Right.
Super.
Welcome to the
So
milestone. Yeah.
thank you. We've heard such amazing things about the school, and we'll be starting in 30 seconds. So, ma'am, in terms of format, I'll introduce the speakers for the day, and I'll then request you to speak for a minute or so if you're still, yeah, you're there, you're back. So if you could introduce the school and the topic, and we'll then start the webinar. And at the end, I'll request if we could have you as a panelist for the discussion for the Q&A with the teachers. So we'll follow the format.
Right. We are just, I think, Shikha also needs to join in. Shikha Arora.
Shikha is already, I think, there. Shikha, you want to show your face to Manveen, ma'am?
Oh, no. Actually, ma'am, she's not able to join. There's another Shikha. So,
there's another Shikha. Okay.
Right. So she was not able to join.
Okay.
There's some problem in her connection.
Okay.
So
but
let's,
she can't
Shikha,
join in from the other way.
She can join in from YouTube, Shikha?
She was supposed to do the welcome, so I believe that's okay, because till that time it will get late. If you want, I can ask her.
Yeah, because she would be doing that. So in case we can add her in, so it would be nice.
Let's take another minute or so, Shikha, and let's see if you can.
She can join as an attendee. I'll promote her as a panelist. So ask her to join as an attendee if she's not able to join as a panelist.
To do that, I'll ask her to do that.
Yeah. And what's the name, ma'am? Shikha?
Shikha Arora.
Shikha Arora.
So I'll check if she can join as an attendee. I'll upgrade as a panelist.
Right.
So we'll take another minute or so, and we'll try to get Shikha on board, ma'am.
Right, we'll do that.
So are you going to school, ma'am, or are you at home now, all the teachers, or have you partially opened school for the teachers?
Yes, it's partially open for the teachers. If they have work, they can come in. Otherwise, they are continuing with the online classes.
I guess that's the way it is for us. That's right,
yes.
Of course.
But it's a very difficult time, and I think this has forced all of us to get a little more tech savvy. So I think that's a plus point.
I think some of us have been a little lucky because we've been aligned with technology for a while.
True. In schools, we are not so well equipped. So that's why initially we had to struggle a bit, but now the teachers are on board, so they are comfortable with online classes.
Fantastic. It's been an amazing revolution, ma'am. I mean, the way teachers have stepped up.
Oh, yes.
It's been absolutely fantastic.
So the university with the online classes?
Absolutely. We actually did our final NSEM exams. So we closed them 3 days back. So we've also got some AI-based proctoring tools, making sure that assessments are proper and students can't really, go beyond the screen when they're taking the exams.
All right.
So it's been a very exciting journey. I think the adoption of technology has been quite rapid. So we're very excited about the way things have happened.
I think we didn't have any option otherwise. So, yeah.
So we've been pushing adoption of technology for the last 4 or 5 years, but there's been a lot of resistance, of course, for anything like this to happen. And Corona made it happen virtually within 2 weeks. Everyone was online.
Very true. I think it's our generation which took a little longer time to accept technology. But youngsters these days are more tech savvy. So for them, I think it was quite comfortable.
So ma'am, my suggestion will be, why don't we start? We already have 50 of your teachers there waiting for us.
Right.
And as Shikha ma'am joins, we can then get her into the discussion. We'll see her on
Right.
screen the moment she joins. If you allow me, can we start?
Yes, please.
Vivek,
Yes, please go ahead.
thank you.
Good
So good
afternoon, Mr.
afternoon.
Atray.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Ma'am.
How are you?
I'm fine. I wonder if you remember, I met you once at the Gurukul function in Panchkula.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes. So
Wonderful, ma'am.
I had the pleasure of listening to you that time.
Yes, yes, yes.
So looking
You're
forward to
looking
the
familiar.
session as well. Right. I was heading one of the branches of the Gurukul in Panchkula.
Yes.
Handle. Right.
Wonderful to meet you again.
Same here. Looking forward to this interesting session.
Well, thank you, Manmeen ma'am. Thank you, Vivek. And good afternoon, teachers. Good afternoon, Manmeen ma'am. Good afternoon, Vivek. Welcome to Ideas That Matter, a series of webinars by Shoolini University, Khosla Hills. The idea behind Ideas That Matter was to get to know each other, inspire each other, and hopefully in the process, inspire our students. So Vivek and I started very small around 2 months back, and we now speak every day to some top school of the country. We've covered 48 different webinars now, 78 different schools, 30,000 students, and around 20,000 teachers. So it's been a wonderful experience talking to teachers over the last 2 months, and we're so delighted to be with the school today. Vivek, as a quick introduction to all of you, is an ex-IAS officer, a TEDx speaker, a motivational speaker, and also the architect of the IT park in Chandigarh, which he drove as his personal effort, I think, when he was the director IT for the UT administration. Vivek is also a very dear friend and also a visiting professor at Shoolini University. So thank you, Vivek, for hosting the session today. Quick introduction to me. My name is Atul Khosla. I'm the founder and pro-vice chancellor of Shoolini University in Himachal Pradesh. I'm a BTech from IIT Kanpur, an MBA from a school called Jamnalal Bajaj, and then I spent 20 odd years in the industry in consulting. Started with a firm called McKinsey & Company, and my last job was CEO of a very large consulting firm by the name of Oliver Wyman, which I was driving globally and in India. And then the teaching bug hit me. I am a very proud teacher now, and I'm so glad that I could meet all of you. So we're going to take around 30 odd minutes taking you through our experiences of online. Vivek, of course, speaks pretty much 3 times a day, and he's a very famous speaker. He's got more than 2 million views on his different talks across Josh and TEDx. Pretty much I take 2 to 3 lectures every day. We've been working on online for the last 5 years at Shoolini. So Vivek will speak about his experiences, and I'll then take you through a small presentation, which I put together about how do we plan to do, or how are we doing online at Shoolini, and also some of my experiences over the last few years. So Vivek, time for you to start. I think the format will be the same. We'll have you speak for 10 minutes. I'll take another 10 or 8, and we'll then open it up for questions from the audience. So audience, please do ask questions. And at that point of time, we'll also request Manmeen ma'am to join us to participate in the panel. Over to you, Vivek. Mr. Vivek Atray, ex-IAS officer.
Thank you, Atul. Thank you, Atul Khosla, and thank you, Manmeen ma'am. Very nice to meet you again. And Atul, it is wonderful always to be speaking with you. I am aware that we have done almost 50 schools in this webinar series now, rather 50 webinars and more schools. So it is wonderful that we are able to speak to a new school every day. Manmeen ma'am, we have been talking to teachers and students and parents, and you have chosen a very important topic of online teaching skills and how to get across to the students online. And just as an intro, I'll just say that as a public speaker, I found certain skills to be very useful to me. I will share them. And I've also become a kind of teacher after resigning from the IAS, because I speak every day to audiences of various kinds: government, private sector, school teachers, college teachers, students, and through the web and through actual classes when the lockdown is not there. It's to be connected, and let us make the most of it. I was going to say to you first that whenever you meet anyone, that personality either impacts you positively or negatively or neutral. If that personality impacts you positively, that means that person has an aura or emits positivity and has something about him or her that is pleasing, not only to the eye, but also in terms of intangible perception, where you can understand a person just by the aura, the radiation, the vibes that this person emits. So to meet someone like that, normally teachers have that kind of vibes, those kinds of vibes. They do emit these kinds of vibes. And to meet someone like that is a really plus point in any day, or a pleasure to meet such people. Now, what I would like to tell you is that on camera, it doesn't really change that much. And when you are teaching in the class, when you're teaching on a camera, certain things are the same and certain things obviously are different. What is the same? The same is that you are speaking to an audience. What is also the same is that you are looking towards the audience, whether you're looking at them physically or looking at them through a device, a laptop, a phone. You are looking at them. You're not looking here and there. And you are speaking to them. You're not speaking to someone else here and there. So when we realize that only the medium has changed, see, human beings are very used to talking on the phone. When we speak to someone on the phone, and when we speak to someone in front of us, there is not much change in our demeanor or way of speaking. We are used to it. We are so much used to speaking on the phone to a cousin, a brother, a friend, a parent, or our children, that we speak naturally, and to our close family or friends, we will speak in a normal way that we would normally be speaking to them, as if we were sitting across the table. What happens when we speak to someone who is formal with us, someone official, someone senior? We are the same when we meet them, and we are the same on the phone. We are, we have a little more respect. We will try to be a little more courteous. We will not use any informal language. So we are the same in many ways. Now, when we have come to the world of webcams and online teaching, suddenly we feel that we have to be different. The first thing to be, which I find is a great secret, is to just be yourself. I was told this by various people when I became DC Panchkula. I was Deputy Commissioner of Panchkula before resigning. And I was told by a very senior friend, he said, I said, what tips for me? I'm becoming DC. He said, just be yourself. Now, whether we are DC or whether we are public speakers or whether we are teachers or whatever we do, if we put on something else, an act of something we are not, then it becomes difficult. Sometimes we tend to do that unconsciously, and we tend to become somebody else in front of a camera. If we start behaving naturally in front of a camera, then we will start teaching naturally online. So Atul Khosla will tell you how he overcame his nervousness as a speaker by practice. But I just want to tell you that what has worked for me is to be myself in a camera session, on a stage, speaking in a meeting, chairing a meeting, or attending a meeting, not being very conscious about what kinds of people are there and what they might think. Another factor that works well for you is that in an online session, actually very few interruptions are there. In terms of maybe interruptions are technical interruptions may be there, but you don't have interruptions of the kinds that may happen in school. Some child suddenly wants to ask for some break or go out, is not feeling well, some child is being naughty. Here, in this case, they may be being naughty, they may be not listening, they may be not paying attention, but somehow it doesn't disturb the others as much as it might in a class. Now, in this setting, I know that some children become naughty, they start making noises, or they switch on their mic when they're not supposed to. I think there's a feature where you can mute everyone. Use that. And as a teacher, you know that parents and neighbors and uncles and aunties also sit with the students at times. It is challenging for you. But that is okay. You are doing your best. You can't do better than your best. Do your best. Be calm. Be gentle. Try and give your best as a teacher, whether you are on camera or in the classroom. What also works for me as a TEDx speaker, I have 8 TEDx talks. Atul just introduced me very well. Thank you for that, Atul. It basically works for me that I come prepared and I deliver with my own style, not copying anyone else's style. So content and delivery are equally important. 50 to 51% is content, 49 to 50% is delivery. So if I have good content, good structure to my lesson or class or talk or lecture, I will do well. If I have the ability to speak loud enough, consistently enough, I have the ability to intonate, that is to vary my speech in whatever ways are necessary, to change my tone when necessary. If I have the ability to follow some humorous stories which are relevant to the context, perhaps add a couple of stories which are inspiring, then I am going to make my lecture and talk very effective. And the students, except for the naughtiest of the naughtiest who can't be helped, the rest of them will enjoy it, they will learn from it, and they will be attentive. One way which Atul will also tell you is to make them participate and to ask them questions and to keep on getting them to interact. Then they cannot run away. And these things will give you ideas which are absolutely essential. Speaking confidently and with clarity and with cheerfulness and positivity is something that I have practiced a lot. And if you watch my TEDx talks or those talks, you'll find that pretty much I try to emit positivity in whatever I do. And these speeches, these classes, I've taken classes also. I teach at Shoolini University. I'm a visiting professor. I go there regularly. And it is a joy to be interacting with students in the classroom. But these webinars are also equally good if we look at them that. I would love to be back in the classroom. You would love to be back in the classroom, and you will. So let us not also over prepare ourselves that this is going to forever going to last like this. Let us know that this blended learning will stay. We will have online teaching. We will have classroom teaching. We have to be good at both. So let's try it that way. And then we'll succeed in any way. So I'll come back with a couple of stories later. I am going to hand it over to Atul for his presentation. And he's got a wonderful presentation on the online methodologies, the new way of teaching and reaching out. Over to you, Atul.
Thank you, Vivek. Inspiring as always. Teachers, good afternoon once again. I'd like to start by telling all of you and thanking all of you. You've been so wonderful over the last 3 months. I mean, you've been wonderful for ages, but last 3 months, all of you really stepped up. You are, all of you, true Corona warriors. You've made sure that our young ones are inspired all the time. You've made sure that not a single day of learning was lost. None of you were used to technology, but you stepped up and you have done such a wonderful job. So Vivek, I was talking to my security guard and I was asking him how his children were in his village. And he said, my son has no time at all. वो phone पे पता नहीं क्या करता रहता है. So even in a small school somewhere in Bihar, his son was actually getting online learning. And I think that's the beauty of technology. It democratizes learning in a very phenomenal way. So I'm very, very excited about what's really happening. I think whether we like it or not, online will be there to stay in some form or the other. What I'd like to take you through is some of my learnings, some of my findings about how do you go about building your skills on online. But before I actually do that, Vivek, I'm going to tease all of you with a small video on Shoolini. You know, that's where I'm sitting. You'll see some lovely streams and lovely trees, and the weather is 22 degrees. The bees are buzzing and the birds are chirping. So if you allow me, I'm going to do that, and then I'll get into my presentation. So hopefully it'll also awaken some of us after a lovely lunch we had in the afternoon. So this is Shoolini for you. Thank you. So Vivek, I don't need an AC over here. Just to leave you all, feeling a little jealous. So we started the journey of online education around 6 years back at Shoolini. We started an initiative that we called Project Meghdut. The idea was that Meghdut, who was the son of Ravan, could be anywhere, any point of time at will. And that's our dream, that students should be able to learn wherever they want to be, whether it's the garden or it's the classroom or it's their bedroom or wherever they want to be. So based on that, I've actually got a small presentation together, which I'm going to now pull up. And if you allow me, Vivek, I'm going to do that in a second. Okay, here we go. Righto. Yeah, can you see my screen, Vivek?
Yes.
Fantastic. So teachers, I started my journey of online learning, not just 3 years back or 4 years back, but when I started my my career in consulting with a firm called McKinsey & Company, we actually had started online learning in a very sizable way at that point of time. Our clients were all over the world. Our partners were all over the world, and our trainers were all over the world, and we were interacting through video conferences. So what we are talking about here today is no different from running a quality video conference or running a quality learning session. And some of the findings or 5 stories that I'll talk about today would be my journey over the years and 5 broad thoughts that I've learned, which I think will be very, very valuable to all of you. I'm going to take around 4 to 5 minutes on the outside. My first story is about my very first boss by the name of Ranjit Pandit. Ranjit was a charismatic partner with McKinsey, US educated, and he would always say, invest in your toolkit. Every one of us needs to have the right toolkit, starting from the electrician to the carpenter to the teacher. Your toolkit as a teacher historically has been a chalk. And that's really been, I think, the nature of teaching. At most, you might have used computers to some extent in the past, but the toolkit has changed. The toolkit has actually moved into a computer, into a mobile phone, into a Wi-Fi platform, into a work from home environment, etc., etc., etc. It is your own as teachers to ensure that you have the best toolkit. Your pencils are sharpened, and you have to ensure that you put your best foot forward. Let's look at a carpenter today. If he doesn't have a good saw or a good randa, can't really make a great piece of furniture. The same thing about online education. You will need 6 things. You'll need the right PC and hardware, the software, a space where you do your work from home, and collaboration tools. And I'll try to cover all of them holistically. So the first thing is, what sort of hardware do you need? The irony is mobile, which is a very interesting device, actually doesn't work when it comes to online teaching. So please invest in a laptop. That's very important. And of course, we've got some specs over here. The minimum you'll need is a 5th generation i3. You need 500 GB of space. If you don't have it, I'm sure there'll be banks who'll be ready to finance it, but it's important that your online learning goes through a laptop and not through a mobile. I had stopped using a laptop actually for a few years. I would do everything from a mobile. I've come back to a laptop because a mobile just does not have enough resolution to give a great presentation. The second thing is about software. So you need to make sure that all the right softwares are there on your computer, whether it's a Windows 365, it's antivirus, VLCI for playing videos, which are there in open education resources, and Adobe Acrobat Reader, etc., etc., etc. Shikha, I will pass over this presentation to you so you can then pass it over to the teachers. Teachers don't need to take notes. Accessories, so invest in a good headset. Very important that you're heard properly. Your webcam needs to be of the right quality. So these are basics, teachers. I'm sure some of you have these, some of you might not. But at Shoolini, we've actually got all our teachers online certified. And the first part of online certified, apart from the training that they're getting, is also to ensure that the right place is there, the right technology is there with them to make the the online education happen. The second thing, of course, is a dedicated space. You don't want your dog to be barking. You don't want, your child to be jumping over you when you're running a online class. Can happen sometimes, but should not be happening all the time. So you need a dedicated space, which we call your cubicle. You need a place where you need to have, and you will have to make some tough statements. For example, one of the things I do when I work from home is to put a small label outside my door saying, please do not disturb, I am working. So as you work from home, teachers, you might want to do that, unless, of course, you're doing your online lectures from a school, which, of course, is a quiet environment. Set a schedule. Make sure you get up at 7 in the morning like you normally do. Please close your work at 4 to 5 in the evening. Do not extend it beyond that. Work-life balance is very, very important in these days. It's very important that you don't have the stress. The world is building on stress as we speak. And finally, invest in the office furniture. The right desk, you want to be sitting on the desk or your chair for 4 to 5 hours, the right lighting, just to ensure that the lecture is quality. Make sure that the backdrop is proper. You don't want to be in a situation where your students are partly laughing at you. And why do you want to do this? Because like Vivek said, your audience has also changed. You're not just only speaking to today your students, but who knows, the Nana Nani, Dada Dadi will be listening to you, and your lectures might also be recorded. So you want to give your best foot forward. Connectivity, I'll take a second over here. Wi-Fi is actually unstable, doesn't work very well. So avoid Wi-Fi. Make sure that you have a landline. Invest in broadband. Invest in fiber if that's available in your town. 3 to 5 Mbps is really needed to do a good quality online lecture. And finally, invest in the collaboration tools. This is something that, of course, the school has to provide, whether it's Zoom or Skype or Slack or Dropbox or any other platform. I'll strongly encourage your school to invest in an LMS, a learning management system, which is then integrated into a video platform like Zoom, which is then integrated into an assessment platform where you can actually run your assessments very, very effectively, ensuring that there is no, for example, no cheating that's happening. So it's all about technology. Some of the technology teachers you'll have to invest in, and some of the technology the schools will have to invest in over time. But that's really, in a nutshell, like I said, it's about investing in something for you. You're not doing it for the school. You're not doing it for the students. Actually, you're investing in yourself, because if you're a great teacher, you're going to get the accolades. You're going to get the pat on the back. And it's all about finding success within, as my dear friend Vivek talks about. So Wi-Fi, I'll again repeat, webcam, a headset, LMS, your video, your assessments, and finally the right training. So lots of exciting stuff on edX and Coursera, which are free. So get yourself online certified, my dear teachers. It's a little different on how to teach versus how you do it in the classroom. I'll give a small example over here. A typical lecture that we suggest at Shoolini should not be more than 20 minutes, while your class is typically 40. The human mind cannot absorb more than 20 minutes of monologue content over a computer. So you might want to make changes in your pedagogy, have much more asynchronous learning and content built in. Asynchronous is assignments that you're giving to your students. Many of you might be giving assignments for students to speak, create a video and get back. Amazing way to get students to learn things and also understand things and also get great communication skills. So lots of amazing stuff can happen. I can talk more about how do you build great lectures, but that's not only the topic today. But pedagogy and instruction design will be very, very important as you take things forward. The second story I'll tell you about is a very dear friend of mine, Todd Furness, my second boss. And Todd would always say, wherever you are, you need to be the most presentable. So the same thing applies on an online lecture. Make sure that you dress well in front of the computer. I've seen some of my faculty members early days, they would be in t-shirts, they haven't shaved, or they've got crumpled hair. I know for a fact that teachers dress very, very elegantly. My mother's been a teacher, my nana was a teacher. So continue with that, even if you're at home, speaking to a computer. Like I said, you all are actors now, you're all being watched. So make sure that you put your best foot forward, even in the way you dress. The third thing, and I'll speak a minute about Tom Peters, a very famous author, a best-selling author, wrote a book called In Search of Excellence. And I was so excited to work with him when I was in New York with McKinsey. And he would always say, your office needs to be a quiet, convenient space. It's very, very important in the online world, my friends. You cannot work effectively out of a bed. You cannot be putting the cushion as a table. So, which I mentioned earlier, do invest in an office. It could be a small space you create in your bedroom, and you close the bedroom as you give your online lecture. Important that it feels like an office. Important that it inspires you. Important that it's quiet. But most important is that you have the mind space and the peace of mind to actually teach your students and also act in other particular ways that you have to as a teacher. Fourth, Paramhansa Yogananda would say, be actively calm and calmly active. It's extremely stressful to speak to a computer. Trust me, 30 minutes of a lecture, and I know you all will agree, is extremely exhausting right now because the engagement levels are not there. The engagement levels that you'll have as a teacher talking to your students is energizing, while speaking to a computer, at least for me, is energy sapping. I get very tired after speaking half an hour, 40 minutes. I'm sure that happens with you. So we need to keep our mind calm. And I'll request actually Vivek to talk about it, but I'll strongly encourage all of you to get into meditation, whether it's through Paramhansa Yogananda's philosophy or through anyone else. But keeping your mind stress-free is so important in this particular world. And finally, practice. Vivek, poked me by saying, Atul, tell us about your story. And my story is very simple. I'm a Solan boy. I grew up in Solan. When I went to IIT Kanpur to study, I couldn't speak a word of English. I learned how to speak English over there. It was a matter of luck that my roommate was from Chennai, so he couldn't speak Hindi, I couldn't speak Tamil. So we learned to speak English together. But most importantly, when I started working with McKinsey, which was, in my words, a very stiff upper lip company, expected you to have the best communication skills. Within 3 months of me joining, I was told that, Atul, you're fired. You do not have the right skills to communicate, the right style. Of course, I didn't. I grew up in a small town. My parents are middle class. My parents are teachers. I never spoke English at home. So I luckily had the courage to ask my boss to give me time, and he did, and said, okay, take 2 years, but I don't see you that you'll succeed. I didn't go back home and cry. I actually went to Singapore, and in those days, I bought a camcorder, and I would then speak to a camcorder every day for the next 7 years, every day, 1 hour, speaking to a camcorder, till I learned how to speak. I did not stammer anymore, and I had the confidence to look into people's eyes, my clients' eyes, and speak to them. I not only survived 2 years, Vivek, I actually did very well. I spent more than 20 years in consulting. My last job was the CEO and a global partner in one of the largest firms of the world. And I'm very proud of that. And I believe that if I could do it, every kid of India can do and be successful and learn how to speak. So I'll just do a quick recap. Invest in your toolkit, look smart always, make a great office, make it convenient, make it quiet. Practice meditation, as Yogananda Paramhansa would say, and finally practice. And my dear mentor, the late Steve Jobs, that I really admire, would say, also think outside the box. Teachers, no one really knows the best practices of online learning, online teaching. We're all experimenting. We're all learning. I experiment every day, whether it's with technology, whether it's the way I deliver my lectures. I sometimes succeed, I sometimes don't. Today, as an example, I'm taking a lecture through telling stories. I hope I engaged you, all of you. It's a little different from giving a typical lecture. So I'm going to show a small video before I close. That's Steve Jobs, as he would say, be crazy, think outside the box, because this is the time for you to do things which you always wanted to do all your lives. So quick video.
Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules, and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them. About the only thing you can't do is ignore them, because they change things. They push the human race forward. While some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. Because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do.
So Vivek, my last thoughts to all of us is, let's go crazy, let's think different, let's change the world to be a better place. It's a glass half full. I wouldn't say it's half empty. It's a new opportunity for us to make our students world beaters. I always talk about this, Vivek. It's easy to make intelligent students successful, extraordinary students successful. The real maza is if you can take the belly of India, the average student, and make them world beaters. And I think that's an opportunity for all of us. Online learning can play a big role in making that happen. Thank you very much. Over to you, Vivek.
Thank you very much, Atul. Very comprehensive presentation with learnings from your life and work. Very inspiring personalities included there, and I don't know some of them, but I know about Steve Jobs, of course, and how inspiring he is, and Paramahansa Yogananda. And let us link the two, because Steve Jobs actually was a follower of Paramahansa Yogananda's book, Autobiography of a Yogi. I've got it here, and I always show this for inspiration. It is a great book, Autobiography of a Yogi. You must read it if you haven't. It's not a religious book, it's a spiritual book. So anyone from any religion can read it, and it is translated into more than 50 languages. And Steve Jobs vowed to keep distributing the thoughts in this book to all. At the ceremony, which was the condolence ceremony after Steve Jobs had passed away, a copy of this book was presented to each person who came. There are books which make us feel inspired. I would urge teachers to keep on reading books whenever you can. Spend about half an hour to 45 minutes only for yourself. I know that ladies find it difficult, especially with all the work they have to do, multifarious activities with children and spouses and family members and the house and the teaching and the work, even when they go to school. So it is time to somehow squeeze in half an hour for your own reading, your self-development, your scriptures, your meditation. Calmness is something which Atul spoke on. Calmness reflects in personalities. As I said earlier, a personality either influences you positively or negatively or in a neutral way. So some people, they have that calm aura which really influences us positively, and they don't seem to be ruffled by anything. Being a leader and being calm are two things which go together. Teachers are leaders. And if teachers can be calm, cheerful, yet they are efficient, it is a tact, it's a trick, it's a skill to do that. And you will be able to balance your life much better. And small workplace tensions should not be carried home. Home tensions should not be carried to work. Of course, we are human, and human beings will go through stresses and pains and sorrows and lows. But then highs also come, good times also come. We try to remain even-minded. And meditation will help you to remain more calm. So when you're speaking to a camera, before the session, if you can take 2 minutes to just calm yourself down, don't come running from wherever you've come and plug in and here are the books and forgot something in the other room, run back down. Try and calm down, sit down, settle down, and have a couple of minutes of deep breathing, and then go online. So I deliver a speech every day, maybe 2, 3 at times. Today it's 2. So it's something that comes with natural practice. You are doing classes online every day. Try and settle down, and you will feel much better about the session and the class. Sometimes you don't have time. It's superhuman to be calm, I know. But at times you can lose your cool also. It's okay, but not most of the time. It's not good to be an irritable, short-tempered kind of person. Let us earn respect by being stable and calm. It's easier said than done, but if you work on yourself, work on your calmness actively, as Atul quoted Paramahansa Yogananda. Be calmly active and actively calm. So work on your calmness. It will help you in your online teaching, offline teaching, and your life as a whole. One last tip as a speaker: when you're speaking, always, try and inject that kind of interesting fact or interesting statistic or interesting story into your speech. Anyone who's speaking in a routine way from the book or dull will not really excite the listeners. So something has to be done. And sometimes just changing your appearance makes the students look up a little more, or whatever it is important to just bring that interest into your class. Interest factor, the X factor, whatever you like. So teachers, I think we've done enough of discussion. It's already 4:15, and we can probably take some questions. Over to you, Atul, and maybe Manmeen ma'am is joining us, I think.
So we'll appreciate, Manmeen ma'am, if you could also
Haji,
join
I'm
us.
here,
And
yes.
we'd love to take questions from teachers. As you can, there's a Q&A and a chat. So teachers, please, you can ask any of them from anywhere. Vivek, before the teachers warm up for questions, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Tell us about your most embarrassing moment, either in front of the camera as an online teacher, or even otherwise when you're publicly speaking, you're speaking in public.
Yeah, I told you this one before. I'm not going to change it. So it was on stage, and I had no idea about the topic. I kept looking at the banner behind me to see what was the topic of the day. Here I was on the stage to speak, and the person speaking before me was saying something that was totally out of context. So when I went there, I was still half clueless, but I tried to do justice, and I just, after 2 or 3 relevant points, I would go back to something irrelevant. And so I came out of that feeling very embarrassed that, I didn't really do justice. However, people came up to me and said that, sir, what a fantastic session. So I don't know why they said that. So it was very embarrassing when I was on the stage. Once I came off, it was okay.
And how do you prepare for your webinars when you do them now? Do you sort of consciously practice? Do you put your storyline together?
Yeah.
What's the secret of a success, Vivek?
Yeah, that's a very good point and very relevant to all. I think preparation is very important. I mentally prepare myself, and I have some points here with me. So these points are always worth looking at. And I have a couple of books here, as you know, I talk about them also. And so I have a structure in my mind. I probably think of my story or anecdote also, which I'm going to talk about, and that also helps. And then you also keep rotating. Like if I'm telling you the same story every day, then even you and I and everyone will get bored of them, although the audience otherwise may be different. So I do prepare, and then I go before the camera.
I'm going to request Manmeen ma'am to please switch her camera on. We'd love to see you, ma'am. But also, I'm going to ask a question to you first, Vivek, and then also have Manmeen ma'am answer that. It's very easy when you and I are talking, or we've got lovely teachers here to do a webinar, but students, they're so chulbul, they're so, kids are kids. How should teachers go about engaging, especially younger students? What's the best way for that?
Yeah, Atul, I actually had a session with young students in the morning today. And I actually saw they were not supposed to switch on their videos or mics. But 1 or 2 of them kept popping up and making funny faces at the screen. And the teachers were there. And I saw, there were 50 kind of boxes with names. And suddenly one of them would pop up and smile or something. So I could see that these children, obviously, and these were 8th, 9th, 10th, I think. So, these 8th, 9th students with lots of energy, younger ones maybe even more, they obviously will be naughty at times, and that's part of their personality. So we, first of all, don't need to overreact. So I didn't react to them at all. I kept speaking generally, and then I started talking about concentration techniques. and things generally. So I think if we don't overreact to something which is not that serious, it's okay. If someone is being indisciplined, and it has happened in various webinars with others, so they can definitely take strict notice of that and name the person. And also, I think with younger children, it's more important to keep interacting with them and engaging them. What do you think, Atul?
Absolutely. I think one of the things which I would encourage would be to give them a lot of asynchronous assignments. So bring the creativity out of students, make them do things. So we were speaking to actually together to, and I'm sure that's happening in your school also, Manmeet ma'am. How do you assess students nowadays? And this particular principal said we're making them do things, create things rather than answer multiple choice questions. So lots of creativity can come into online learning and even otherwise in life. Absolutely, Vivek, so agree with you. But I mean, Manmeet ma'am, would love to get your response. How do you get young kids engaged?
Yes. And Sushma ma'am is asking me to show the book again, so I'll just show the book. Here it is, ma'am. This is the autobiography of a yogi, and this is a life-changing book. It is a very important book. It is available everywhere. Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda. And since before ma'am speaks, I'll also show my book if you permit, Atul. This
Absolutely.
is Finding Success Within, 52 Life Skills of Young Indians. And this is a book which came out in March. This is for young and not so young people to read and to practice some of the skills which will make them more happy and successful.
Thank you, Vivek. And Manmeet ma'am, would love your thoughts. We can't see you, but I think we can hear you for sure.
I can't enable my camera. I think it's been disabled.
Anyone
you can speak
from?
a little loudly, ma'am. We can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you, ma'am. So we can definitely.
Right. Am I audible?
Yeah. Oh, we can see you too now. Lovely.
Right. I must say before I answer the question that the tips have been very useful, and in today's time after the pandemic, we really have to upgrade our skills. And thank you so much, Mr. Atul, for your life stories that you shared with us. So I think if we carry on learning and don't stop learning ever in life, so we'll grow as a person also. So regarding how do we assess children, was that your question?
Now, how do you engage young students online?
Right. Online, we haven't started basically for the junior children, the primary section, but it's the senior ones. We have started the online classes. And like you mentioned earlier, it's very difficult to keep them engaged, and technology being new for them for classes. Half the time they're unmuting themselves, popping on the videos and trying to distract. And some of the smart ones also make others exit the group. So it was quite challenging for the teachers, but slowly they have got the hang of it, and now things are much under control. So like Mr. Atray said, that as a speaker, you need to be prepared for your class, and you need to have anecdotes and stories so that the children are engaged. Otherwise, beyond 20 minutes, they will not have the concentration to listen to you. So that's what the teachers are trying. It's quite challenging though, but they are trying to keep them engaged like that by making the modules very interesting and the talks very interesting so that children would want to listen.
So there's a question for you, I think. Sorry to interrupt, ma'am.
Yeah, there is also a question over here which says, should we keep the video on or off? I think Simanshu is asking this. So I prefer keeping the video on. My opinion is the engagement level has to be from both sides. So if I don't see the audience, it's very difficult to engage for me as a speaker or a teacher. And you also don't know on the other side whether the student has, are they really learning? Are they really listening or not? In fact, one of the experiments I'm doing, Vivek, is to even not mute. So I'm saying be in a quiet zone, just like students, just like you'll be in class. So muting is not allowed. It takes effort because there's lots of sound coming in from the background. But definitely, I would request that the video is on. it'll be important for you as a teacher to know what your students are doing, and it's important for the students to be prepared to be in front of the camera, because they also should know that they are being observed, rather than a laissez-faire situation where everything is off.
I think
it's very
that it's very important to,
yeah.
so that the
But
children.
I can understand,
Yes.
Manmeen ma'am, it's very difficult even in college. So I'm just coming out of a lecture with my MBA students, and I was addressing them. A lot of anxiety, of course, with MBA students. They're not getting jobs. Things are very tough at this juncture. So there were 250 of them, Vivek, and I requested again and again and again for them to switch on their cameras. Let me tell you, still around 50 of them did not switch on the camera, despite me repeatedly requesting that, please, I would love to see your lovely faces and your lovely smiles. So some came, but some of them didn't. I think it's a learning process. It's a cultural change for all of us. And I think over time, Simanshu, will keep on getting better. I think that's what's going to happen.
I'm glad to see a couple of other schools also, like Manmeen ma'am is obviously the principal of Milestone Smart School, but also DAV Public School is there, I believe. The police.
Yeah, that's
public.
what we saw. So Seema Kang ma'am is there. So from DAV, Police DAV Public School. So welcome to the webinar, ma'am. I think Alicia ma'am has got a question. You want to pick it up or a comment?
Yeah. So she's saying that she's attended multiple NPTEL lectures, which are good for mature students. However, as far as kids are concerned, interaction is a must. So she agrees that the younger the children, the more the interaction is necessary. Even for senior students, keep interacting with them, it's good. Of course, like Atul said, for younger children, asynchronous teaching is very important. You can send material for them to work on online, some WhatsApp, some email, whatever. And then they have that assignment. Where live classes with very young children are going to be difficult online. And it also increases their screen time. So it's probably better not to do that. So it's good to have synchronous as well as asynchronous for the youngest kids.
So Vivek, one of the things which I do a lot, probably next time I'll do in the webinar also, is to run a small voting, right? So like Kaun Banega Crorepati, you can actually ask a generic question and students will answer that. And it's actually beautiful to see how people are responding. And you can actually have fun. You can even ask, sometimes I've asked questions like, how do you find my lecture? And they know it's anonymous. So sometimes it's also shocking to say that, sir, you're really boring, right? Please shut up. So I think the ways that you can do it, we've brought in quizzes into our lectures, Vivek. So after every 10 minutes, we ask a question, it's a quiz, and that goes into the grade. So it's an automatic pass-through system. So the students will answer the question and it goes into the grading system for the student. So it keeps the, the ears and the eyes awake. So different technologies can also be used apart from, of course, interaction. So that's something that I would encourage all of you to also use. I think for a school, of course, like I said, the technology becomes very, very important, that all the teachers and the students are on the same technology.
One question from Navjot ma'am I can take, and maybe you can take the other one. Ma'am was saying something?
Yeah,
Manmeen
go ahead, Manmeen ma'am.
I said nowadays we have no option but to get a little more tech savvy as schools. Universities, you have a lot of backup and of technology of the IT sector that you have in your universities, but in schools we are still struggling with getting more comfortable with technology.
So I do a lot of work, ma'am, on this with schools. In fact, my own alma mater, St. Luke's in Solon, I'm working with them to upgrade their technology. So happy to volunteer if it helps. So just let us know.
So much for your offer, certainly.
So Shikha Sood, not Shikha Arora, will get in touch with you, and we can definitely help you on that. Vivek, Navjot ma'am has a question.
Yeah, Navjot ma'am's question. So I feel that one second, where is it? Navjot ma'am's question.
So she's basically saying, how do we make sure the students are learning? And
she's saying, I understand now. So she's basically saying that how can we make sure that they're understanding what we say, because in the class we can see their expressions. Well, Atul's idea of keeping their videos on but their audios off is one idea. The other is that at the end of the class or in the middle, keep naming the student and asking Alicia is ma'am. But students, it could be Mansi or Manish or someone, that Manish, what is your opinion? You understand this? Let him say something. So when you make everyone speak at least once in the whole class, then some amount of feedback will be there for you to make sure that they have understood. And there's something about online assessments.
So I'll pick this up. So I think you've got two questions over here. One is Simanshu is asking, how do you conduct tests and assessments? And then Alicia ma'am is asking, can you use Google questionnaires? Ma'am, Google questionnaires, absolutely no. Because all the student has to do is go to Google and put your question and the answer comes. There are two ways to do assessments. The first and the most appropriate way and the right way is to be on the extreme right side of Bloom's taxonomy, which is making the student create something where he can't cheat. I mean, so your question is, for example, if you're teaching English poetry, say, can you write a poem now and explain why you wrote the poem? And you can give a situation. Of course, the student can go to Google and try to cheat, but make him recite the poem over a video. He can or she can record it over here and learn. So that's the best part, that a question is about creation. It's something that the student cannot cheat. But if that's not possible, if there are students who are from conventional 11th and 12th standard and you have to follow the CBSE, ICSE assessments, then you need proctoring tools. So there are proctoring tools that ensure that there is no cheating that's happening. We have those at Shoolini. I was explaining to Manmeen ma'am that we've just finished our final assessments at final end term exams. So for example, when you're doing the proctoring, the screen is frozen, which means you cannot toggle from your screen into Google. You cannot look left or right. It picks it up, and you can have a remote proctor who's seeing what's really happening, or an invigilator, that's the word. So I think those things and those technologies are available. Again, happy to share them with you. But the best way is that give it an open book exam. Make the students see the book and answer the question. Let's be creative. Give case examples so that they can't cheat. Definitely no Google questionnaire. Absolutely no, Alicia ma'am. So Ravneet ma'am has a question, Vivek. I don't know, on these, Manmeen ma'am, you want to respond? Sorry, would love your thoughts.
Regarding the technology part, I think you'd be the best one to answer that. Which is the best way of assessment that you've been following there in your university? So I think we can take your guidance on that and
absolutely
try out the options that you have mentioned.
Yeah, Ravneet ma'am's question, ma'am, is that online teaching effective for students less than 10 years? So ma'am, that's exactly what we were saying, that the younger the child, perhaps below 10 years, you can follow the asynchronous method, which means that you're not holding a class online. You're sending them material online and they have to do some assignments or read it and come back to you. And then you can hold some online classes, but the majority of their learning is through asynchronous, at their own time kind of learning. And parents also should be aware of that, so that these young children can be regular in their practice. That is important.
So Vivek, one thing about online learning and the online world is we try to start on time. Unfortunately, I have a 4:30. I have to get on to another class. So I think there are a few questions. If you could please continue, I'll appreciate. I truly apologize, teachers. I've got another class that I have to jump into. Thank you, Manmeen ma'am. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
We'll reach out to all of you.
Your words have been very inspiring, and we'll get in touch. Certainly, I'll speak to Shikha about it.
Thank you so much. Have a great day, all of you.
Thank you. So, ma'am, I think I can take a last question, which is there. How can we ensure that students won't cheat? So, like Atul just said, there are ways and tools for checking whether a student is looking left, right, or here and there. If he's looking straight at the screen, then it's different. These proctoring tools are there. And also, you can also make sure by just getting them to, there are some interactions taking place all the time. And there are methods by which these online testings can be foolproof. So you can do that also. But there are ways in which Atul probably will help you with your model software.
Yes, we'll do that. We'll get in touch with him on that.
And one is asking, Let's change the system. Why always teachers have to prepare lectures? Why they are not prepared lectures and interact with teachers? Okay, so that also is possible that there are prepared lectures, and sometimes it is for the teachers, sometimes ready prepared lectures are there. That is a school thing. But overall, I think, ma'am, we can conclude by saying that online teaching and classroom teaching will both stay. And don't worry, classroom teaching will come back. It's not going to be like this forever. However, I would urge you to get comfortable with this medium. Once you're comfortable, then in any case, you can use it whenever required. And blended learning with technology as well as online and classroom teaching is the best way to be. I think it's wonderful to have so many teachers from Patiala here, and DAV Police Public School and Milestone Smart School. I think 2 schools are there, ma'am.
Yes, I think so.
Anyway, nice to meet you. It's time to say thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Atray, and your tips about being a good speaker, I think, has been very helpful, and teachers, I'm sure, are inspired by listening to you, and I'm sure they'll make the adequate changes that you have mentioned.
Thank you. Stay in touch, all of you. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, and my lectures are on YouTube. You can share them with your children also. They are hopefully inspiring. You can find me on YouTube. And all the best, ma'am. See you again.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
On behalf of the fraternity, Milestone Smart School fraternity, once again, I would like to extend vehement protestations of gratitude to the eminent speakers who have really done a challenging job, and I'm sure the inputs provided by you shall go a long way in making the online teaching process a fruitful one. Thank you, sir, for joining in. It's been a wonderful experience and interaction with you. Thank you so much on behalf of the Milestone.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Bye-bye.